We know that life began on this planet about 3.8 billion years ago. Now, how did it start? We need amino acids. Amino acids are not self-replicating. So for us to get to the point where we can have sustained life, we need to reach the level of RNA or DNA. The amino acids need to come together to form RNA and DNA. Those are self-replicating. That can sustain life. The latest theories help us to realize that there's no hope of a DNA world. The latest theories have been surrounding an RNA world or a partial RNA world. In 2011, some British scientists came out with the notion that, hey, we're getting closer to how that partial RNA world might work and how we might get to the origins of life 3.8 billion years ago. What they suggested is we know that 2 of the 4 bases, cytosine and uracil, might have this particular type of a relationship. We subjected some cytosine to enough radiation and it broke down the cytosine and some of it became uracil. So we're thinking now we're on our way to getting to where the 4 bases could come together to give us RNA. Well, why is this really not that impressive? Here's why. Cytosine and uracil, we've known for a while, will only assemble naturally under very hot conditions. Adenine and guanine will only assemble under very cold conditions. So just because we can say, hey, we got some radiation that can break down these 2 guys and we could see how this might happen, that doesn't really tell us much of anything we didn't know before. The problem is the base pairs that have to form, the cytosine and the guanine and the uracil and the adenine. How are they going to pair up when they need to assemble naturally under drastically different conditions? That's why to date, we have no plausible explanation for how we can make it to even an RNA world. So naturalism, all of its attempts to explain the origins of life are failing. Here's more things that we want to consider in this dilemma. 19 of the 20 amino acids that have to come together all need to be left-handed. The 20th one needs to be right-handed. This is a phenomenon known as homochirality. Earth is not a homochiral planet, and it looks like it never has been. So the homochiral material we need, the homochirality of the amino acids that we need, did not originate on Earth. We're looking for vast reserves of homochiral material. We haven't found them. All explanations to date, there were some ones that seemed plausible in the 1990s, maybe even the early part of this millennium, but we've ruled them out. So where do we get the homochiral material from? In addition, we know from the Urey-Miller experiment that in the 1950s, they were able to get material to, they'd spark it, and hey, look, we get some organic material, we get things forming, and we think that maybe this explains how life could originate on Earth. Now, the conditions, the only conditions that we can find to replicate that experiment and the conditions of their experiment involve having water vapor present, but no oxygen. The minute there's any oxygen present, none of this can happen. So because of that, scientists say, well, there must have been an oxygen void atmosphere at the point at which we see origins of life established. So, okay, that's the hypothesis, but the problem is this, that there is no evidence that we were ever void of oxygen. Part of that has to do with photodissonance, that if water vapor is present, which it had to be in the Urey-Miller experiment, then even the slightest amount of radiation that's coming through a dense cloud cover would cause photodissonance, which would be to break the bond of the hydrogen and the oxygen. The hydrogen would tend to leave the atmosphere and the oxygen would stay. And so there's no evidence that we ever had an atmosphere void of oxygen. So objective scientists will agree the Urey-Miller experiment does not allow us to say that natural means could explain the assemblage of the amino acids and the bases to get us to the point where we have RNA. We keep having dead-end roadblocks everywhere we go in search of a natural explanation for the origins of life. In addition, most of us who are in the older crowd, at least, were taught that there was a primordial soup that existed 3.8 billion years ago. A primordial soup of all the necessary building blocks for life that we needed, and all it would take would be something like a strike of lightning to cause some of those to form RNA or DNA. We now know that such a primordial soup never existed. When we look at the carbon-13 to carbon-12 ratios that exist in kerogen tars that are left, we see that none of the organic material that's on this planet was ever prebiotic. It's all postbiotic. So what do all these evidence suggest? Life did not begin on planet Earth, and it did not originate on planet Earth. All the building blocks and the origination of life, it looks clearly, had to have come from off of planet Earth. Now, knowing that, we'd like to know, so where did they come from? And you'll have to stick around and watch the second video on the origin of life dilemma to get the answer to that.